Hello, welcome to this video, and we are diving into a nice lively debate that's been raging in the Diablo 4 community. So this is one about respec costs. You got people on different sides of the fence. You have some people who think that there should be no respec cost. They think that the more punitive these costs are, the more you're going to squish creativity, because you will immediately incentivize people to go look at a build guide. And you got this other side of the fence that's saying we don't want people just changing their entire build willy-nilly. You know, you run in and you're in a dungeon where it's a little bit hot. Woo! It's a little hot in here. I'm gonna respec to be full fire resist. And then you go into to the next dungeon, and there's like some ice on the wall, and you're just like, ooh, brr. I'm a little bit cold. I'm gonna do a full respec into doing fire damage now, and I'm also gonna have some cold resists on, and like doing this flavor of the minute kind of build revision. Some people don't like that. And then also some people have the opinion, like, what does it matter to you if I play that way? Like, why would it negatively impact you if I'm able to change my build constantly and you just want to stick with the same thing? And I think that we can come in, we can steel man both sides of this argument and just try to understand each other a bit. Imagine that. Come in with some tree hugging ways over here, waving a little peace sign, and I think there are good pieces of information you can extract from both arguments here. So this poll is an interesting one. I just wanted to snap a picture of, because you had a good number of people responding to this, and the majority here, or not the majority, the highest number of votes went to this, hey, respecs should be free. Just make it free. Though it could be argued that these two, the 96 and the 90, are kind of saying the same thing, because we don't really know that the current way that things work is not necessarily that this is expensive late game. Relatively expensive to how much it costed to do a respec early in the game, sure. But if you have billions of gold laying around end game, what really is the difference between 1,000 gold and 50,000 gold to respec a point? So it might be so insignificant that you can't really call it expensive. Now, we've heard different things. The developers have said that they want the cost to be enough that you're not just constantly respecing. So from that perspective, you could say it's going to get expensive late game. But again, that could just be something where it's more like expensive in the same way that going out to eat is expensive, right? Like you could go out to eat a couple times a week, whatever, maybe a couple times a month. If you go out to eat for every single damn meal that you eat, you're going to run out of money pretty quick. But it doesn't mean you can never go out to eat. You just might have to think about, do I want Mexican food tonight? Do I want pizza? Some other. Look, I'm a simple guy. We're eating simple food over here. But maybe you get what I'm saying. It's kind of subjective what this expensive is. So if you have 186 votes for this, then it actually looks like the majority of people think there should be some kind of cost to respecking. It just shouldn't be cutting your legs out from under you. Okay, so the argument against having a respec cost, I want to steel man that argument. And somebody said, somebody I think represented this argument in a nice way. And they said, it's not 2000 anymore, so things have evolved. We've seen this before, and what's going to happen is you're going to push people into build guides and hunting metas. So this is really dialing into that idea of, hey, if you make this thing expensive to make mistakes, then people are going to really not want to make mistakes. And what are they going to do? They're going to go out there and plagiarize somebody else's build. They're going to go look at somebody's build guide, let them do all the thinking for them. And that's kind of tragic for a game like Diablo 4, where so much effort has been put into making multiple builds viable. You know, you can beat all of the content that's put in front of you. Maybe you can't push as high into the Nightmare Dungeon tiers or whatever, you know, or to relay that to Diablo 3. Maybe you're not pushing Greater Rift 150, but you're still doing Greater Rifts and you're able to have a good time and whatever, even if you have some rat shit build. Like in Diablo 4, it seems like you're going to have a lot of opportunity to not necessarily be doing the meta and still be owning. Just a question of how hard are you owning? That's the feeling I get having played the beta. So the thing about this is that a lot of times when I hear this argument, it seems to be coming from a place of respecking is expensive as a rule. Like a lot of times the way this argument is presented is giving examples as if you're playing through the game and you just want to experiment, and now you're being punished for experimenting. I can tell you for a fact that is not how this is going to play out. Like when you're playing in the beta and you go to respec your points, gold is not a concern. So the way that the respec costs work as you're playing through the game and experimenting, it doesn't even matter. And I think that this is what kind of the opinion that this other poster comes into, where they're pointing out, you know, up until level 50, respecs are dirt cheap. So it's not actually a scenario where you're too scared to try things out as you level up, and so you're just going to go look at a build guide. No, your experience leveling up to 50, where you stop getting skill points, where you stop being able to gain additional new points to put into your skill tree and your passives. By the time you get to that point, you've experimented a lot. You've tried out every skill, or you've had the opportunity to try out every skill, respec, you know, sideways, front, back, from every angle, the fourth, fifth, sixth dimension. You've respect, and so by the time you reach this point, and the cost starts to get expensive, you know, you start putting points in your Paragon board. Maybe you get to a point where you decide, hey, I actually hate this character. I want to do a full respec. Well, this person is throwing out that they have it on good authority that a level 100 character, it costs 2 million gold to do a respec. I have no idea if that's true, but if it is, then the kind of like what he's saying, that's not even that expensive. You can grind out that gold and you can do that full respec. So moving right along, I think those arguments are valid on those two sides, right? You don't want to squish creativity by making it impossible for people to experiment and try things out. But the way that things work already is that you don't have prohibitively expensive respec costs. You're going to be basically getting all the way to the end game by the time the costs even become significant enough for you to really care. But then just because it's significant enough for you to really care does not mean that it's making you, take out a second mortgage to afford it. And then we get into the arguments that I think just run into disingenuous examples. So in this one, we start out strong. First couple points make sense. Might as well cost gold to change your gear. But then they get into this, this kind of common trope of, well, it's Blizzard, so they're probably just going to make it pay to win. Pay to respec. Pay us real money, and now you can respec faster. I think that's kind of disingenuous, and it's not you can't really steel man this argument that much because it's going against all the evidence we have from the developers. The developers are saying we are not going to integrate pay to win kinds of things. It's going to be purely cosmetic, and respecking your skill tree is not a cosmetic change. So things that you're going to be able to buy in the game are going to be things impacting how your character looks, Did you get a perm? Did you get your nails did? Not going to be things like, hey, you can respec your character now because you paid $1. This other person can't respec. I just doubt they're going to go in that direction. And finally, wanted to close this off because I have been playing Diablo games for a long time, so this one cuts me deep. So somebody came in and they said, hey, I'd prefer there's no respec. Characters should be an investment. So this person probably played, D2 Classic, and your cat jumps on your computer as you're allocating stat points after you level, and oh shit, I put a point into energy, no! And you're a barbarian or something. Well, any character really, you should never be putting points into energy in D2. D2 Classic. And so anyways, then you're just stuck with that character. And so this person comes back, they say, you should get some kind of title called 90s Gamer until you respec for the first time. It's just a nice little jab at people who have this back in my day kind of mentality. Your character should be an investment. You should never be able to respec. Uphill both ways. I guess that's seen as an older mentality. But I do want to point out here the 90s gamer mentality. One thing that I think was true about those old, the Diablo game experience when you were in Diablo 2 and you had limited respecs or you had no respecs way back in the day. It was true that your character was an investment. So if I was making a barbarian and that barbarian was optimized for magic finding, I would make another barbarian that's optimized for PvP. And if you found some godly new item and all of a sudden you had 15, a ring giving you 15 to strength and 15 to dex, and you no longer needed to pump those base stats into your character, you might re-roll a new character because now you're going to be stomping the PvP grounds potentially if you take that time to build up that new character with the optimized stats, because now you have 30 extra points to pump into vitality. And this really felt impactful because when you would find those items that allowed you to redefine your character, it was exciting. Maybe this doesn't jive with everybody, but I definitely felt more attached to those characters. They had identities. They had purpose in that kind of playstyle. And then in Diablo 3, it was just whatever set I found. Who even cares about the legendaries because everything's about set items. Well, now they just changed the set item to have 60,000% increased damage for the Shadow Impale Demon Hunter. Well, I guess now I'm a Shadow Impale Demon Hunter. Or you go out there and you look at you find out what the meta is, and now your character's just gonna change. You're gonna change all your items and all your skills just to match whatever the flavor of the week is. So ironically, I think actually the same argument that's up here about making respecs cost more actually forces people to just chase the meta and do the build guides. I actually think a lot of people end up gravitating towards the meta and the build guides just as much, if not more, if they're able to just respec at the drop of a hat with no cost at all involved. You'll just kind of find eventually, well, what is the best way to allocate my skills and my stats or whatever just for this particular use case, and you'll just respec and do that. And then for any other use case, you have 15 different things in front of you. You're just going to go out there, you're going to, no creativity on your part really. You're just going to copy and paste all the different metas and apply it to your character. So I don't know that this argument even really holds, because I think people end up doing this anyways when you can respec and it doesn't cost you anything. Why wouldn't you just go respec to the whatever the meta this week is? So in that sense, I think that there is actually a little bit of something to making the respecs meaningful enough to where maybe there's a threshold at which you would want to invest that gold to do a respec. But otherwise, you're going to stick with the identity of the character that you have. I lean towards that. I see both sides of this argument, but I think it's one of these scenarios where I think you're going to see more creativity and more build variety when people do things their way and it works. And sure, they could get like 5% extra effectiveness if they went with the meta for their niche, but they didn't go with that from the start. And it's going to cost them, this much to respec into that meta. Well, do you really want to do that? Or are you, effective enough with what you have now and you're doing things your way? There's a trade-off here. I like the creative side of it. I like people doing their own thing and having unique characters. So, that's just kind of jumping in here, being one of the chimpanzees slinging feces at the other side. I'm not trying to rag on anybody who has any of these different opinions, but I do think there should be some kind of cost here to the respecs, and I don't think it's going to be prohibitively expensive. It's just going to be enough to where you're not constantly resetting every single point on your character. So we'll see how it actually looks when the game comes out.